Chapter 15. They were in the front seat of the company car. Hutch's dad had the key in the ignition, but still hadn't started the engine. The two of them just sat there in the new parking lot at Santa Luces, talking to each other about as much as they usually did. Finally, Carl Hutchinson said, "I ought to make you sit in the back seat." Hutch just sat there in silence. His dad said, "Want to know why?" "Why?" "Because right now I feel like I don't know you any better than the people I drive around in this thing. That's why." "Maybe you don't," Hutch said. Now his dad put the car in gear, pulled out onto Hypoluxo, drove them past the 7-Eleven where Hutch and Cody had stopped for Gatorade, back when the only problem in Hutch's life was what he was going to say to Darrell Williams when he tried to make things right between them. Good job with that, Hutch thought now. Cody had gone home with Mr. Cullen, the coach saying it was right on his way, telling Hutch's dad, "I have a feeling you and your boy have some things to talk about." Hutch hadn't thrown any punches at Darrell once they were on the ground, but then he'd never had the urge to punch him. It wasn't about that. He just needed to put him down in the heat of the moment, knock that smirk out of his voice and off his face. Hutch knew, in the smart part of his brain, the part he wasn't using, how stupid this whole thing was. Juvenile was the word his mom always used for dumb guy things. But he still couldn't have stopped himself. He knew Darrell had tried to get under his skin, knew what was happening between them was sillier than the silliest beef on a playground, one guy saying your dad liked him better. It didn't matter. He went for Darrell the way you went for a high fastball you knew you should lay off sometimes, no matter how much you told yourself it was a sucker pitch. It had taken half the team to get them separated. Brett took hold of Darrell, while Carl Hutchinson had his long arms around Hutch. Darrell wasn't smirking now, wasn't wearing that smile any longer, just pointed a finger at Hutch and said, "That's your one." "One what?" Hutch said. "One free shot," Darrell said. "Next one's mine." "There isn't going to be a next one for either one of you," Mr. Cullen had yelled. "This ends here and ends now. Is that understood?" Hutch and Darrell weren't looking at him. They were still looking at each other, still trying to stare each other down. Playground stuff to the end. "I didn't do anything," Darrell said. "Right," Hutch said. "Am I understood?" Mr. Cullen said, spitting out the words one at a time. Reluctantly, both Hutch and Darrell nodded. It was then that Mr. Cullen had turned to Hutch and said, "What were you possibly thinking?" And Hutch Hutchinson, who had just shown he didn't have the best judgment in the world, but who still prided himself on telling the truth, told the truth now. "I wasn't thinking." Mr. Cullen shook his head, exasperated, took off his Cardinals cap the way he would sometimes after they got a bad call, and ran his hand through what hair he had left. It was then that his coach hit Hutch a lot harder than Hutch had hit Darrell. "You're out of the game tomorrow night," he said. "I love most everything about you, Hutch. Love your game, love your passion for the game, love your heart. But I wouldn't let another player on this team get away with what you just did, and I'm not going to let you get away with it, even if it costs you and us our season. Now, is that understood?" "Yes, sir," Hutch said. They had all stood there for what felt like an hour to Hutch, Mr. Cullen done now, nobody on the team saying anything, until Hutch's dad had said, "Let's go." Now they were in the car, this quiet car that was much nicer than their own Camry, Carl Hutchinson gripping the steering wheel with those big baseball hands of his. "Why?" he said to Hutch. "I don't want to talk about it." "You can decide something like that, whether you want to talk about it when you're the dad someday. But I'm the dad here, so you're sure as Sunday going to talk about it now." Hutch slouched down even lower in the passenger seat than he already was. Where did he even start a conversation like the one his dad wanted to have now? When he was 7? Hutch thought of himself as a pretty smart guy. Not the smartest kid in his class, but smart enough. Just not right now. How did he explain to his dad? How did he make him understand that he'd been waiting for his dad to come out and play with him for the past 5 years? That when he finally came out of the house to play ball, even for a few minutes, he'd done it with Darrell? "How come you want to start talking to me now?" Hutch said. "That's a question, not an answer." "It'll have to do." "Don't use that snippy tone of voice with me," his dad said. "I didn't do anything tonight." "Who are you, Darrell?" "I'm your father," Carl Hutchinson said, "the one who's trying to understand why you do something to hurt your team that way." "I wasn't trying to hurt my team," Hutch said. "I was just tired of him mouthing off." "Mouthing off about what?" his dad said. "I was out there and I didn't hear anything." "Dad, you only hear what you want to hear most of the time." "We're back to me again?" "Anyway, what matters is that I heard him," Hutch said. "And what did you hear that was so terrible that you had to go after him like one of those soccer nuts in the World Cup?" "Why don't you ask him the next time you're giving him a private baseball lesson?" The words just came out of Hutch, nothing he could do to stop them. It would have been like trying to stop a wave off Boynton Beach. They were at a stoplight. Carl Hutchinson turned to his son. "Is that what this is about?" Hutch turned and looked at him. Another stare down, with his dad this time, not feeling so different from the one he'd had with Darrell. "Yeah," he said to his dad. I guess it is. After that, Hutch just let it rip about how it should have been him on that field, not Daryl. How Daryl could never have shown up as much as his own dad had today, acting like he cared more about Daryl than he did his own son. He was shouting, and his dad wasn't stopping him. I can't even remember the last time you were out on a field with me. Acted like you wanted to be out on a field with me if I tried, Hutch said. He turned away, feeling like his heart was going as fast as the car, noticing for the first time that they were on the Florida Turnpike for some reason, wondering where in the world they were headed. His dad gave him a quick sideways glance. Can I say something about your friend Daryl before you start in on him again? He's not my friend, Hutch said. Why can't you get that? He never wanted to be my friend. He didn't want me to be captain. He doesn't act like he even wants to be on the same team with me. The other day, he went out of his way to get me run over on a stupid routine force play. He did what? Never mind. They were in the left lane, going at a pretty good clip. But then his dad always said that the Florida Turnpike was like the Daytona 500, just with amateurs. Now his dad said, You're dead wrong about what happened tonight. It didn't mean anything, least not to me. Well, it did to me, Hutch said. And don't tell me it didn't mean anything to you. I could see you were having big fun out there. So could Cody. I got no reason to lie to you, son, Carl Hutchinson said. All I was doing was killing time. His voice was the total opposite of Hutch's, barely louder than the sound of the engine from the Suncoast Company. That's all baseball ever is to me now, a way to kill time. He slowed the car down, got back in the right lane, put on his right blinker, and took the Okeechobee exit off the turnpike. Great, Dad, Hutch said. So you're saying you don't even care about my baseball now? Sorry you have to kill so much time coming to watch my games. Hutch paused and then said, Why do you ever bother showing up for my games anyway? That's not what I'm saying. Hutch clenched his fists, pounded them on his knees. Then what are you saying? I'm saying that when it comes to baseball, I don't let myself care too much. Not even about you, Carl Hutchinson said, especially about you. Well, I want you to care, Hutch was yelling again. I care. Don't you get that? Looked tonight like you cared a little too much, his dad said. He paid the toll now, went through the booth, took a right on Okeechobee Boulevard. You cared so much, Carl Hutchinson continued, that you acted like you'd lost your stinking mind and cost yourself a chance to play in a championship game. And guess what, son? You don't know how many games like that you're going to get in your life. Trust me on that. Hutch was still stuck about his dad not caring, couldn't make himself move off that. He said to his dad, You sure looked like you cared about baseball with Daryl when you were showing him that old board drill of yours. That's the thing, his dad said. What I'm trying to explain to you, even if I'm not doing a very good job of it. What thing? They were taking another right into what looked like some kind of big complex for condominiums. Hutch had barely noticed how fast it had gotten dark since they'd left Santa Luce's. It cost me nothing working with a guy like Daryl, his dad said in that quiet voice of his, the one that made Hutch think sometimes he went through life talking like people did in the library. Because he doesn't care. How can you be as good as he is, as great as he is, and not care? Hutch said. Oh, he cares all right, Carl Hutchinson said, just not like you. He loves baseball for what it's going to do for him someday, because he's sure it's going to make him rich and famous and get his mama out of Montana and all that. He nodded and said, All the things I was going to do when I was his age. He just doesn't love baseball for baseball, the way you love it. Hutch thought about the Hun School of Princeton, New Jersey, pictured the cover of that brochure he kept hidden in his room. But he wasn't going to tell his dad about it, not tonight, not until he absolutely had to. He just felt tired all of a sudden. It still should have been me out there with you. If you wanted to get back on the field, why couldn't it be with me? It was then that he noticed the sign for the Emerald Dunes Golf Club. Hutch looked at that, then looked at his dad, saw that his dad was the one who really looked tired now, looked as tired and beaten as he ever had. You want to know where you end up if you care too much about baseball? Carl Hutchinson said. Here.